Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. I'm Marcus Eschlimann, senior conductor with 15 winters on cross-border services through the Alps. On the night it started, I signed on at Zurich HB for a luxury charter bound for Milan via the Gotthard Axis, a special winter run booked by a diplomatic group and a cluster of VIP passengers connecting from private meetings in Bern and Geneva. The consist was retrofitted heritage stock, polished teak interiors, brass fixtures, real table linen, coupled behind a modern electric locomotive leased from SBB Cargo International. Power traction for the night was a Re 474 series loco configured for Switzerland and Italy, 15 kV 16.7 Hz AC over our territory, with changeover planned at Chiasso for 3 kV DC on the Italian side. We were cleared to use the base tunnel because the organizers had paid the premium path charge for a guaranteed slot. Before departure, I checked the car list on my tablet. 9 coaches, generator van, 2 sleeping cars, a salon car, dining car, 2 more sleeping cars, a service car with laundry and stores, and a rear observation lounge fitted with sealed panoramic glass. Each coach had been brought up to modern safety spec: central power via 1000V train line, UIC air brake through the main pipe, screw couplers between cars, auto-closing inner car doors, smoke detectors, and CCTV in public areas. Our staff were a small team: me as senior conductor, Erica, assistant conductor, 2 compartment attendants, Nico and Sofia, Chef Luca with 2 stewards in the dining car, and a security contractor named Dario hired by the diplomatic group. The driver, or Lokführer, was Keller, an old colleague with strict habits and a clean desk in the cab, nothing loose, everything clipped. We had one unusual instruction sheet, a special protocol for selective isolation, prepared for the charter by our operations desk. It referenced the tunnel safety standard operating procedure with add-ons for high-value travelers. It authorized me to lock doors between cars using the magnetic override keys on my ring if I suspected a medical risk. I had done door isolations before, mainly for disorderly passengers, never for a medical event. At 20:06 we rolled out under the great roof of Zurich HB, pantograph humming, LED platform indicators sliding our train number to the right. I moved through the consist checking compartments, tickets not needed because it was an all-charter manifest. The diplomats occupied the forward sleeping car and the salon. They had blue cases with state seals and 1 courier with a handcuffed briefcase. The lounge at the rear had 2 music producers and an outdoor company founder who wanted to watch the night peaks slide by. Everyone had winter gear and the sort of quiet confidence that comes with a concierge desk on speed dial. An hour later, snow began. Between Zug and Arth Goldau, the flakes grew heavy. The dispatch feed on my tablet showed yellow advisories for high winds on the open track, but green lights for the base tunnel. ETCS Level 2 was live. We were in cab signaling territory, no line-side signals once we entered the tunnel, all movement authority from the radio block center. Keller called me on the internal GSMR handset. His voice was calm and clipped. "Marcus, double-check that the isolation keys are with you," he said. "Control sent me a late bulletin about a respiratory thing going around. No details. They asked for readiness." "I have the keys," I said, touching the heavy ring on my belt. 2 red, 2 blue, red for door interlocks, blue for the corridor shutters. "Good. Keep the team tight," he said, and ended the call. The dining car opened for second service at 21:10. I paused there to talk with Luca about closing early so we could secure the galley before the long tunnel. He agreed. told his stewards to keep the coffee urn half full and the gas shutoffs locked. He had induction tops on rails, not gas, but Luca liked his rituals. That was when I noticed a cough at table 5, a tall man in a dark turtleneck traveling alone. The cough was not dramatic, but it was persistent, and I watched him grip the table edge with both hands between breaths. He smiled when he saw me looking and said he was fine, just mountain air and a long day. I asked one of the stewards to bring water and a disposable mask from the service drawer, just to be safe and to reassure others. He nodded, took the mask, and thanked us in English with a trace of French vowels. We passed Erstfeld and lined up for our slot. The approach to the base tunnel feels like the run-up to a runway. Everything narrows, timing matters down to seconds, and the locomotive holds steady under the wire like a machine that knows the distance by heart. The Operations Control Center at Poleio cleared us for entry, and the DMI in the cab would have shown a clean movement authority to the exit near Bodio, a single block almost 57 kilometers long. You trust the systems in there, ventilation, cross passages, fire doors, and the procedure that drills into you in every annual refresher. If something stops, you don't guess. You follow the book. At 21:37, our headlights pierced the black, and the tunnel swallowed the world. Tunnel acoustics are clean and hard. The vibration changes, the air pressure evens out, and the train takes on a steady, contained sound. The network usually keeps GSMR coverage continuous inside, plus an internal service band for emergency beacons, and there are fixed telephones every few hundred meters in the cross passages. I walked forward, checking the pressure doors between coaches. Erica was with me. Nico and Sophia were handling turn-down service in the second sleeping car. 2 minutes in, the coughing man in the dining car stood up too quickly, knocking his chair back. One of the stewards reached out to steady him. The man's eyes lost focus for a second, and he set a hand to his chest like he was trying to recall something important. I was 3 tables away. He tried to smile again, then sank to his knees. I got there in seconds. "Luca, glove up," I said. "Everyone. Space. Please." I keyed the internal announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen, we need a little room for a medical check. Please stay at your tables for now." We eased him onto his side and looked for a response. His skin was warm, pulse rapid. He whispered something I couldn't catch. I asked Erica to bring the first aid kit and the pulse oximeter from the service cabinet. She ran. Dario, the security contractor, appeared near the door, eyes scanning, a professional posture with his hands open and empty. The man's breathing shortened. His shoulders went rigid in small bursts. I saw no obvious injury, no blood, no sign of an obstruction. Erica returned with the kit. The oximeter showed a reading that dipped unnaturally low, then jumped, which can happen if hands are cold or circulation is poor. I called Keller on the GSMR handset and told him we had a passenger in distress and might need a precautionary stop at the next service bay. He said he would advise control. He stayed calm. Then the lights flickered once, only once. Not the usual contact bounce, but the kind of stutter that makes technicians turn their heads. The car restabilized on the train line power. The vents kept their low, constant breath. The man exhaled, a long, emptying breath, and stopped moving. There is no drama when someone passes in a quiet room. There is silence and the sound of shoes shifting. I put a hand near his neck and felt nothing. We started CPR because you do not assume, you do not delay. We worked by the book under clean LED light with the train moving at tunnel speed. After several cycles with no response, I made the call. I wrote the time in my notebook. I instructed Erica to note his seat number and description and to cover him respectfully with a privacy blanket from the kit. Then my radio clicked with a garbled voice. Sophia in the sleeping car, trying to keep it steady. "Marcus, we have an issue in compartment 7. There's panic. Someone is—" He fell, then stood, but the rest scrambled with packet loss. I looked at Dario. "Stay with them," I said, meaning the diners and Luca's team. "Keep the aisle clear, Erica, with me." We moved aft at a fast walk, past the kitchen where Luca had already shut down power to the hot line, past the swing door into the corridor of the sleeping car. The CCTV monitor at the end of the car showed compartment doors closed up and down the corridor. Small, red "Do Not Disturb" markers glowed. I used my key to buzz the staff call panel, and Sophia opened from the inside. She spoke low. "Compartment 7, she said. He collapsed, the wife screamed. Then he stood up again and pushed at the door. He pressed his face to the glass. His eyes, he looked like he had lost where he was. He tried to bite the door edge, I don't know how else to say it. "Hands," I said, holding mine up. "We all sanitized from the wall dispenser. Where is he now?" "Inside," she said. I locked the leaf. The wife is in the corridor behind me. I switched to the local corridor PA. "Everyone, please return to your compartments and turn the key to the horizontal position. This is precautionary. Remain calm." I used my red key on the corridor shutter and rolled it down halfway, turning the latch to détente so it could go up in seconds if needed. Behind the compartment's window glass, a man paced in tight arcs near the banquette. He looked like he was sleepwalking. No blood, no obvious injury. He moved toward the door and pushed with his shoulder, not with his hands. He bumped the glass and kept bumping as if he had forgotten other choices. The wife sobbed into a sleeve near Sophia, repeating that his name was Jan and that he had been tired after a long meeting. I called Keller. "We need the first service bay," I said. "We have an unresponsive passenger in the dining car and a second person acting confused and forceful. I am isolating cars." "I just lost the OCC voice channel," Keller said. "DMI is still showing authority and speed. I can request an emergency stop, but I'm not getting confirmation tones. We have fallback procedures. We can stop on our own if safety requires." "Take the bay," I said. "We need a place to work." "Understood," he said. Then the lights dimmed again, this time for a full second. When they came back, the corridor speakers filled with a tone I had never heard on this consist, a dry, short buzz like a test pattern. The emergency transmitter located in the service car began blinking on its panel. Its self-test LED should be green. Now it flashed orange. Erica looked toward it as if sound had direction. "Radio noise," she said. The car-to-cab repeater just went muddy. "Keep eyes on the compartment," I said. I went to the intercar door and used the red key, détente, lock. "I'm closing the dining car behind us," I told Dario on the handset. "Keep everyone seated. If anyone looks confused or tries to push where people are, move them to the far end and give them space. Don't put hands on unless necessary." We reached the service bay 10 minutes later, one of the cross galleries that joins the two parallel tubes of the base tunnel. Keller took us in smoothly and halted on the marker. The brakes set, a signature breath. I heard the pantograph chatter in the overhead changes. There would be a technical room behind a door, a refuge space, and a fixed telephone connected to the emergency line. Procedure says you can evacuate a car into that space if needed. I called Keller again. "We're in," I said. "Open the forward cab for me. I want to confirm the link." "I tried," he said. "The control cabin door shows locked from the inside." "From the inside?" "Yes," he said. "I'm in the cab as usual. The secondary access to the forward equipment area shows locked, and I just lost the OCC text channel. DMI still good. It's odd." "Hold," I said. "Stay on the brakes." I took Erica and moved forward through the dining car and the salon. The diplomats were gathered. Their courier still with his briefcase, the others in controlled conversation. I told them we had 2 medical incidents and restricted movement. One of them, a woman with a gray streak in her hair and a jacket with a national crest pin, looked at me with focus. "Do you require assistance?" she asked. She spoke with the direct tone of someone used to giving orders. "Maintain your positions," I said. "We are going to check the cab systems." When we reached the head end, the access door to the forward equipment space refused my key. It was not the usual jam from coach twist, it was a positive locked state. The indicator showed locked inside. That made no sense for this door. There's no reason for it to self-lock from inside when the locomotive is underway, and this was a coach equipment door, not the locomotive. "Erica, go back and keep eyes on the sleeping car," I said. "I will troubleshoot." She left without wasting time. I opened the panel for the coach's local control and looked at the diagnostics. The interface showed a loop of timeouts on the intercom repeater and the emergency transmitter repeating "self-test failed interference." I traced the cable run in my head. The repeater took GSM-R signal and rebroadcast it throughout the consist. If that was being jammed, it would explain the muddy calls, but we still had local handset wires between cars. Those now sounded like they were underwater. I tried the fixed telephone in the service bay. Dead. I checked the breaker in the cabinet. Fine. I tried the secondary line. Dead. That is not supposed to happen. The tunnel backbone has redundancies, and the local phone should talk to the emergency center even if GSM-R is down. I started back toward the sleeping car to take stock and set up isolation in depth. That was when the observation lounge door buzzer sounded. I saw Erica wave to me from the far end. I picked up the pace. Inside the second sleeping car, compartment 9's door was open. Nico stood there holding his service baton, a short composite tool we're allowed to carry for door control and self-defense. He was breathing fast, composed but keyed up. On the floor, a young man sat with his back to the bed, hugging his knees. He had small tremors in his arms like a cold shudder. His girlfriend was talking to him softly. He looked up at me and tried to speak but struggled to arrange the words. "Has he been drinking?" I asked quietly. "No," the girlfriend said. "He has a fever. He said he felt pressure in his ears after we entered the tunnel and then it got worse." "Any medication?" "Only ibuprofen. Earlier in Zug," she said. I stepped to the side so he could see me at eye level. "You are safe," I said. "We will keep this compartment closed for now. Nico will bring water and a cool compress. Try to rest." He nodded once, eyes out of focus. His hands pressed his knees and pulses. I closed their door and turned to Nico. "We isolate rows 3 through 6, I said. "Use the magnetic key on the corridor, keep the shutter down. No one moves without us." "Understood," he said. Sophia came down the corridor fast, eyes scanning. "Compartment 7 man stopped bumping the door," she said. "He lay down. Then he stood up again. He looked straight through the glass. He is more forceful now." "Keep distance," I said. "No one opens that door. If he tries to climb the window, we go to full car isolation and we will move his wife to a safe space." Quietly. We did the isolation. Red key turned, corridor shutter down, secondary latch engaged. That slowed movement between the sleeping car and the rest of the train. I radioed the dining car again. Dario answered. "Status?" I asked. "Calm but tense," he said. "The man covered in the dining car is still. No one is approaching him. We have 2 passengers asking to go back to their compartments. I told them to wait." "Good," I said. "Keep them in the dining car for now. I am locking the sleeping car." "Copy," he said. I called Keller. This time his voice was sharper. "Marcus, I lost the RBC link for 2 seconds," he said. meaning the radio block center connection that feeds the in-cab authority. It came back, but I got a brief alarm. I also heard a clunk in the overhead like a ventilation change. "We have internal issues," I said. "Multiple passengers showing acute confusion, pressure effects, and one death in the dining car. The sleeping car has one man trying to break his door by repeated impacts without using hands. We are in an isolation posture. Where are we relative to the cross-passage door?" 20 meters from a technical room, he said. "Left side. I can open the doors locally if needed, but your coach door indicated locked." "It is," I said. "I cannot clear it. The emergency transmitter is showing interference. The emergency telephones are dead." "That should be impossible," he said. "But that is the word of the day." I stood there with the handset in my ear and felt the train as a single weight in the earth. We were a sealed line of compartments holding 200 and something people. A path ahead and behind with steel and concrete and air moving in measured flows. I knew every door and hinge and breaker from years of drills. The unique thing tonight was not the tunnel or the passengers. It was the jammed systems and people failing in a pattern that did not follow the usual cold and fever. Dario called on the handset with a tight voice. The wife from compartment 7 ran into the corridor. The man inside slammed his head into the glass hard enough to crack it at the corner. "I am moving her toward you." "Bring her through the service bay side," I said. "Do not let him through that door." "Understood," he said. We set up a simple funnel with luggage carts at the corridor junction. A narrow point we could control. The wife came down it with Sophia. She was in shock, shaking, repeating that Jan knew his own name 15 minutes ago and now looked past her as if she were a reflection in a window he did not recognize. I took her to the service car where Erica set her on a bench and gave her warm tea from the crew thermos. She cried quietly into a cloth. The reference book for tunnel incidents lives in your head after years of recertification. It tells you to segment, to control information, to move only as far as necessary, and to keep people occupied because idle time breaks discipline. I went to the dining car and addressed the room in person. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, projecting enough to bounce off the brass without shouting, "we have a medical situation that requires us to remain in place. We will be serving hot drinks and water. Please stay at your tables or in your compartments when escorted. Do not attempt to move between cars unless a staff member directs you. Our crew is trained for this environment." A man in a blazer raised a hand politely. "Is there an airborne risk?" he asked. "We do not have that information," I said, choosing clarity. "We are acting out of caution. Please keep the masks on that were handed out. We will update you as we can." Behind me, Luca had his team pushing trolleys of tea and crackers. It is amazing what a small task does for a room. Shoulders lowered by degrees. Back in the sleeping car, the situation at compartment 7 had worsened. The cracked corner of the door panel grew a small star of stress lines. The man inside, Jan, had switched to using his shoulder on the frame, slower and heavier, like he had found a rhythm that was not tiring him. We could not allow that glass to fail. I told Sophia to pull everyone whose door opened onto that section of corridor into their rooms and to lock them. I took Nico and readied the mobile barricade. 2 service carts strapped together with a luggage strap, a tool I had only practiced with on training days. If that glass failed, the carts would buy seconds. Then the corridor lights dimmed to half. Not a flicker. A deliberate command. The airflow tone shifted. Not much, but enough to notice. I heard Erica's voice on the intercom with an edge. "Marcus, the emergency transmitter panel just spiked again. It shows jammer detected, and then it resets." "Where could a jammer be?" I asked. "In the service car's relay cabinet or the control cabin conduit run," she said. "But why would there be one?" Hold that thought, I said, because I had none to add. There was a bang on glass. The star grew. I told Nico to keep the cart steady and told Sophia to get the wife moving to the salon with Erica. We stood behind our makeshift barrier and watched a door that is rated for the sorts of impacts you see in normal rail life. This was not normal. The man inside did not look at us. He did not react to voice commands. He didn't shout. He hit the same 2 places again and again. The pattern was wrong in a way that made my neck feel cold without a reason I could put in a report. I called Keller one more time. "We have to split the train," I said. "I can't guarantee the sleeping car door integrity for much longer, and we need to move passengers into a refuge space. If we can get the forward doors open, we can shepherd non-affected passengers through to the technical room and then into the service gallery." "Copy," he said. "I will attempt a local override on the coach equipment door." I heard him working the panel through the handset, relays clicking, the soft slap of a service glove on plastic toggles. Then, no effect. The command bus to your door doesn't respond. It's as if the local control is masked. "Masked?" I said. "Like a fake positive," he said. "The system thinks it has obeyed the command, but nothing moves. It could be a harness fault or something telling it to ignore. Marcus, the OCC link, just wrote a single line of text to the DMI. Maintain movement authority, do not stop." Then the link dropped again. OCC would never send that during an incident, I said. They would issue a stop and a procedural path. "I know," he said. "I took it as a ghost message. We are stopped. I am not moving until we sort this out." I settled one thing. We were not obeying ghost instructions. I told Erica to meet me at the control cabin service hatch, the small removable panel under the equipment rack at the head of the coach. That area is where network repeaters and the emergency transmitter sit. If there was a device, it would be there. We crouched on a cold floor and removed the cover with the coach's own Allen key. Inside, tied with cable to a bundle that contained the transmitter feed, was a compact box the size of a paperback with a rubberized switch and a tiny twin-wire antenna spliced into the harness. It was not a factory shape. It was modern and deliberate, with a red tamper seal that had a crest stamped into it. A diplomatic crest. I recognized it from the lapel pin in the salon. Erica looked at me with her eyebrows up like she had just seen a magician's trick. We did not touch the switch. We did not snip because you do not change unknown circuits in a live train in a live tunnel unless you know the outcome. I took a photo with my work phone and zipped the panel back loosely so we could return quickly. "That device is probably masking the repeater in the emergency transmitter," Erica said, breathing with control. "And maybe more," I said. "It could be spoofing statuses to the car control. It explains the false alocked from inside signal." "Why would a diplomatic party hide a jammer under our panel?" she has. "Later," I said. "Right now, we need to move people to the refuge space with or without that forward door." We went to the service bay door again. With the train stopped in the bay, the tunnel cross-passage door was 2 meters outside at platform level. The coach's side door still showed locked from inside. I put my ear against it and heard the faint noise of the tunnel ventilation. I reached under the edge, found the manual release channel where our training says you can insert the emergency key. I worked the mechanism carefully. It stuttered like something on the control bus fought me. Then it gave. The door slid and stopped halfway. It was enough. Cold tunnel air washed in. "Erica, hold it there," I said. "We will escort passengers in groups of 6 into the technical room. Nico and Sophia manage the sleeping car. Dario, you'll stage the dining car." I keyed my handheld to the general car channel. "Attention. We will move some passengers through this car into a service area for safety. Please remain calm and follow staff instructions. Keep your masks on. Families and pairs together. We began that small human chain, 6 at a time across the short gap from the coach to the concrete platform and into the cross passage. The technical room door had a green indicator. I opened it with the tunnel key I carried and found a clean space with benches, a fixed phone, fire equipment, and a service ladder leading down to a maintenance gallery. The fixed phone was dead here too. That told me the interference or cut was not only on the train. It took deliberate planning to make a tunnel phone go silent. On the third group, we heard a brake sound in the sleeping car, a sharp crack followed by a rush like someone had opened a window against pressure. Sophia's voice came soft and tight on the radio. Compartment 7 glass failed. He is in the corridor. Shut her down, I said, already running. Use the carts. Do not let him into the junction. Keep space. Do not engage close. When I reached the corridor, Nico had the carts braced and the shutter almost down. The man, Jan, had pushed to the shutter and pressed his face against it. His teeth scraped the metal in a steady pattern. He reached with his fingers, but not to grip, like he wanted contact but not to hold. His wife cried somewhere behind me. I kept my voice low. Jan, stop, I said. You are safe. We will help you. Stop pressing. He did not respond. He moved with slow force, not with anger, but with momentum and a strange absence of caution. His skin looked gray in the half-light. There was no dramatic foam or anything you see in films. It was all wrong in small ways. Down, I said to Nico. He dropped the shutter the last centimeters and twisted the latch. The metal rung against the floor. That sealed the sleeping car to the rest of the train. If someone forced that shutter from this side, we had the carts and the corridor to work with. If the shutter failed, we had the service bay beyond to move people into the cross passage and close the tunnel door behind us. I returned to the technical room and looked at the maintenance gallery. It ran parallel to the tunnel with service lights every 20 meters. The sign on the wall showed a manual turnout control 200 meters ahead where an older tunnel tail met the service path. A perfect place to reroute if a train had to be uncoupled and moved in pieces. It was why the charter had included the mention of a service bay that connects to an older tunnel in our route package. The infrastructure team had flagged it as a unique feature of this section. I called Keller on the handset. We can lead a group along the maintenance gallery to the manual switch, I said. If we cannot restore communications, we may need to walk to the old tunnel spur and hand-throw the turnout to create a refuge road. I can hold the train with brakes set, he said. We have enough battery for lights for several hours, but I am getting an oxygen warning from the Salon car, he added after a beat. It's not a true oxygen sensor. The coach uses CO2 level and airflow proxy, but the value is climbing. Too many people in a sealed space, low turnover. We were now wrestling with 3 clocks. People showing a pattern of loss of orientation and forceful contact, a compromised radio and phone network, and air quality slowly tilting. We could not sit and wait for a remote hand. Marcus, Erica said on the radio, quieter than before. The diplomats in the salon request to speak with you. They say they have information relevant to the interference device. Stage the next group for the technical room, I said. I will meet them. She met me at the salon door with the diplomat who had the streak of gray hair. The woman did not bother with pleasantries. The device you found is part of a counter-surveillance kit, she said. It was placed on board by our courier at the request of a partner agency. It is designed to suppress certain radio bands and block certain fixed lines if a threat is detected. It should not have been active. It was never meant to remain powered on beyond a test. We received a signal that justified deploying it when we boarded in Zurich. That may have been an error, or it may not. What threat? I asked. A person carrying a modified pathogen," she said, weighing words with care. "You have seen symptoms consistent with a loss of orientation and aggressive contact behavior. I am aware of reports, unconfirmed, of such symptoms elsewhere this week. We came onto this train because we believed it offered good isolation if we needed it. I realize how that sounds." "You jammed our emergency links," I said. "We believed we were jamming a hostile beacon that was tracking our devices," she said. "We did not intend to affect your systems. The package was meant to be placed near our seats. It was moved near your control panel because the signal strength was stronger there." "Can you turn it off?" I asked. "Yes," she said. "The courier has the code, but we hesitated because we do not know if we are also blocking something worse." "We cannot run blind," I said. "We need the emergency phones. We need to call the tunnel control. We are moving passengers into the technical room. We may need to walk to a manual switch to move people into the older tunnel for air." She considered that in a single breath and made a decision. "Bring me to it," she said. "I will have it powered down." We went to the panel and opened it. The diplomatic courier produced a small keypad fob from a chain that matched the seal. He pressed a sequence without flair, like entering a hotel room number. The device's LED shifted from red to dull green, then dark. The ambient static in the carriage lowered by a degree you could feel with your teeth. I keyed the emergency transmitter test. It ran a clean self-check and lit solid green. I picked up the emergency phone in the technical room. This time, a line opened with a click and a burst of static that became a voice. "Gotthard Control," a woman said in calm Swiss German. "Identify." "This is Senior Conductor Eschliman on Special Charter 93A, I said. "We are stopped in Service Bay 42 North. We have multiple medical events with acute behavioral change. We have isolated the sleeping car and moved passengers into the cross passage. Our internal communications were jammed by a device placed without our knowledge. It is now powered down. Our DMI link showed ghost instructions earlier. We need advice and a path." "Understood," she said. "We are on a contingency protocol. We have reports from 2 other trains of similar medical issues. You are not alone. We are maintaining traffic management to keep you isolated. A response team is mobilizing from Bodio Portal, but they are delayed. Follow your isolation procedures. Do not allow affected persons to enter mixed areas. Use the technical rooms. If you can walk to the manual switch for the old tunnel spur and set it for refuge, do so. We will lock signals behind you." "Copy," I said. "Oxygen proxy shows CO2 levels rising in the salon. We may need to rotate people through the technical room." "Do it," she said. "Keep groups small. Vent through the cross-passage doors as needed. We are increasing tunnel airflow. We will retain you in the bay." I exhaled in a small measured way. Having a voice at the other end resets everything. The next hour became a drill of movement and control. We cycled people through the technical room in groups, giving them water and tasks. Carry blankets, hold a torch for a minute during the walk. Anything to make a person part of the solution. We taped arrows with painter's tape from the service kit along the floor to the cross passage so a group could follow without a staff member at every step. Dario stood at the junction with the carts like a goalkeeper, calm and ready to move the barrier an inch at a time to increase or decrease the opening. At 22:55, with 3/4 of the unaffected passengers staged and the corridor secure, I took a volunteer team. The diplomat with the gray streak, her name was Helene, I finally asked, Dario, Nico, and me, down the maintenance gallery. Each of us wore high-visibility vests and carried a torch. I carried the manual switch key in a pouch. The gallery air was colder and drier than the car. The lights put a cone around each step. We passed service cabinets with labeled breakers and passed a relief alcove with a bench and a first aid locker. The maintenance gallery widened near the old tunnel. A small sign with a white arrow and black letters indicated the manual switch. I saw the hand throw lever down in a cutout with a plaque. Turnout 42A. Authorized before operation. I called control on the wall phone that finally worked here and requested permission to throw. The voice confirmed, logged the time, and told me to proceed. I put my weight on the lever. It resisted like honest iron, then moved with a smooth clunk as the points aligned. The indicator panel showed a clean green. I secured the catch with the switch key and logged the action in my notebook. Dario checked the point with his torch, eyes practical. "This gives us a physical route if we need to move a car separately," he said. "It gives us a place to walk people with a sense of direction and goal," I said. "That matters." We returned to the train. The corridor behind the shutter was quiet. Too quiet. I knocked on the shutter lightly and listened. No movement. I told Nico and Sophia to remain back from the shutter face and to keep their carts ready. At 23:20, Keller called with a new problem. "Marcus, I lost one pantograph for a moment, and the train line voltage dropped below threshold," he said. "It's back, but we had a spike that reset some coach controls. My CO2 proxy alarm is chiming again higher. Also, the RBC link is now stable. OCC text channel is clean. They want a status at the car-by-car level." "I will give it," I said. I walked the consist front to back, counting eyes and noting behavior, quietly asking people to raise a hand if they felt dizzy or warm. We made a list. The pattern had a long tail. Most people were unaffected, a cluster had mild fever, and a few had the disorientation that concerned us. That last group we pulled to the technical room and kept watched without touching. We gave them space and water. We did not restrain anyone. We talked to them in calm voices and told them their names every few minutes. Some looked back with moments of recognition. Some didn't. At midnight, Helene told me something that reframed the night. Her courier had received a silent alert earlier that evening that one of the VIPs from another departure city was missing, and that a driver who had handled them had shown unusual symptoms. They had boarded our train early to get ahead of a situation. The coughing man in the dining car, alone, well-dressed, polite, had not been on their list. She did not know if he had any connection, but patterns rarely repeat out of nowhere. She asked me how long we could maintain air circulation with our rotation through the technical room. I told her we could stretch it with discipline, but not forever. At 018, a control called with the decision we had waited for. "We can bring a rescue consistent to your tunnel tube from the south," the woman said. "But it will take more than an hour to reach you, and we will not mix affected groups. Alternatively, you can attempt a controlled movement of your own train to the nearest evacuation point, if you can isolate cars. We will hold the route. You must choose whether to leave the isolated sleeping car attached or to uncouple and leave it in place under guard until we can secure it." My eyes went to the shutter and then to the service bay door. I knew what uncoupling meant. We could release the manual screw coupler between the sleeping car and the service car, set the brakes in the isolated car, and then pull clear with the rest of the train. The sleeping car would remain lit for a time, supplied by its own batteries, with its occupants, including those disoriented, under lock and watch from the cross-passage door. Rescue crews could reach it sooner than they could shepherd hundreds through on foot. But uncoupling would strand those inside without the option of rejoining quickly. It is a kind of triage that remains in your mind a long time. The other option was to remain coupled as we were, keep the shutter down, and attempt to move as one. That risked a breach from the sleeping car into the corridor during movement and increased CO2 load across the consist. It also meant any incident would affect all cars. I looked at the staff. Erica steady, Nico and Sophia tired but focused, Dario calm and alert, Keller a voice in my ear waiting for our call, and Helene, who had placed a device that made our lives harder and then helped fix it, eyes level as if braced for any choice. "Marcus," Keller said softly, not pressing. "Your call. I can hold whatever we decide." I went to the shutter and placed my hand flat on the metal for a second. I felt a faint, steady push from the other side, not urgent, more like tide. I knew there were people behind it who needed help, and that we were not the help they needed right now. The rescue crew with isolation suits and proper medical kit was. I told Control. "We will uncouple the isolated sleeping car and secure it for controlled rescue," I said. "We will move the rest of the train to the nearest evacuation point under your protection." "Understood," she said. "We will lock the signal behind the stranded car. Mark the car number and leave your notes on the cross-passage bench. We will move the rescue crew to it and keep you updated by relay." I gathered the small knot of staff and explained. "We did it by the book, not because the book makes hard things easy, but because it prevents mistakes when hands shake. We evacuated remaining unaffected passengers from the sleeping car area to the technical room via the rear coach door, never opening the shutter to the corridor where Jan pressed. We posted Dario at the shutter with a cart until the last of the uninfected cleared. Then we set the brakes in the isolated car, handbrakes wound tight, brake pipe sealed. I crawled under with Nico and spun the screw coupler with the bar until the threads released and the slack came free. We placed scotches on the wheels for extra security. I checked the battery cutoff so the lights would stay on from the coach cells. I left a note in block letters on the cross-passage bench. "Car 4, ISO, people inside, door shutter down, do not open without PI. Marcus Aeschlimann. Conductor 037. I stood once more at the shutter and told the people behind it, voices wavering, that help was on the way and that we would return when we could. You measure your words in a corridor like that. You keep them simple and true. We drew the consist forward, 6 coaches and a generator van behind the Re 474, smooth and slow under Keller's careful hand. Control gave us a protected movement authority, and the DMI came alive with clean data. The tunnel air increased as the fans ramped, and the CO2 proxy dropped a notch that made shoulders rise a little higher. As we moved, Helene stood in the salon and kept the diplomats calm. Luca and his steward still poured tea as if that were the hinge of the world. Erica checked every latch again as if the train were a patient whose pulse she could feel through steel. Dario stood at the end of the service car, hand on the cart, watching the shutter until it faded to a square of darker gray. We reached the next evacuation point, a larger gallery with an interface to maintenance trains and a wide door to the old tunnel. Control had a team staged there in lights and reflective stripes. They stood in a clean line and did not run to us or crowd, because professionals know that calm is contagious. We opened our doors on their mark. They boarded in measured steps, checked our notes, and met each pair of eyes with a steady look. They did not promise miracles. They delivered competence. That is what keeps a night like this from cracking. On the platform, the senior of the rescue crew took my notebook and asked me to walk him through the timeline. I did, from Zurich HB to the dining car to the shutter to the device in our panel. He recorded the times and nodded once at the point where I chose to uncouple. He did not praise or question. He understood that choices made inside a tunnel are coins that keep their faces for years. Then came the last small turn of the night. A technician in a white helmet approached Helene and handed her a sealed, clear pouch taken from the control cabin conduit run. Inside was a second device, not a jammer, but a small signal transmitter about the size of a matchbox with a tiny printed crest. It had been placed in a line that fed our emergency transmitter and GSM-R repeater. It hadn't been spliced into power. It had been sleeping. It woke when her device powered down and began whispering on a band that the rescue crew's scanner noticed. Helene stared at it for a long second and then looked at me. "I do not know if this is ours," she said. "I suspect it is not." "Not ours either," I said. Control logged it, bagged it, and left it for people with more layers on their badges. We had our part, and our part was people and steel and doors. By 2:10, we had everyone who could walk moved into the old tunnel spur in groups, rotating discipline, keeping breaths measured. The rescue team split our consist into manageable sections to tow and staged a transfer for the most disoriented under soft light, where the sound of the big fans made a constant blanket. At 3:02, after debriefing in a cramped office that smelled like hot plastic and winter jackets, I walked back to the observation lounge. The glass showed nothing but the reflection of a conductor whose vest had dust on it, and whose hands had thin lines from a screw coupler bar. Erica sat on a bench with a paper cup of water. She raised it in a small salute. Nico and Sophia leaned against a wall for the first time in hours. Luca slept upright in a chair, apron folded like a flag. Dario looked out at the dark and said nothing, which was the correct amount of words. I called Keller across the internal line. "Still with me?" I asked. "Always," he said. "Control says they will bring the car we left to the portal with full protection. I asked them to call me with the time. I like endings." "So do I said. We did not get a full ending that night. We got a series of controlled handovers and a ride to a platform where ambulances waited with their quiet lights. We got questions without answers about who hid the transmitter and why the ghost message appeared. We got a decision made in a corridor that was heavy and right. In the weeks that followed, reports filtered, never fast, never with certainty. There were incidents in other networks. A pattern of people losing orientation and pressing toward sound and warmth. No clear causative agent announced at first, then cautious words from officials. The word infection appeared in a bulletin with more footnotes than an engineering paper. The phrase civil containment traveled without details. Inside our company, the refresher course changed by 10 pages and included new diagrams about shutters and human factors. I kept the note from the cross-passage bench, a scan in my folder. It reminds me that trains are communities with their own rules that only appear when everything else stops. It reminds me that a conductor's job is not only tickets and timetables. It is doors and air, and the way a person stands when asked to carry a blanket. When people ask what the worst part of that night was, I do not describe the shutter or the coupler or the dead phone. I tell them it was the moment when the salon's CO2 proxy alarm rose by a notch, and 100 people looked at me all at once for an answer. You learn that answers are sometimes choices, and choices sometimes mean leaving something behind so that more can move forward. I still take the base tunnel on winter nights. The air has a clean industrial smell, and the lights flicker in a way that's only visible if you stare at the same point too long. When we enter, I touch the keys on my belt and feel the weight of red and blue. I call the driver and say I'm aboard and ready. He says copy. We roll in as a single piece of steel with warm compartments inside. I walk the cars like I always did, counting faces and dozing forms and the small movements that mean everyone is where they need to be. If I hear a cough now, I bring water and a mask without making a speech. If a door indicator shows locked from inside for no reason, I check the panel. If a diplomat asks for a conversation, I take it in a quiet corner and listen. If I see a small box with a crest, I call control before touching it. On the shelf near my desk at home, there is a brass label plate from an old corridor shutter that was replaced the week after that night. It is a rectangle with 2 words engraved in neat block letters: Lock Open. It reminds me that we are never only one or the other. We are always choosing, always moving between the two, keeping people in one place long enough to keep them safe, then opening the path at the right time. The night we left a sleeping car in the tunnel, I learned the plain truth of command in a narrow world. You watch, you measure, and when both ends of a decision are steep, you pick the slope that lets the most people stand at the bottom in the morning. That's all, no speeches, no grand lines. Doors, air, steel, names, and the little things. Hot tea, painter's tape arrows, and the steady hand on a screw coupler bar until the threads release. The rescue crew called me at 4:26 by relay. They had reached car 4. They opened it in proper protective gear. They spoke to people inside and guided them with hand lights and calm voices into a separate refuge. They did not send me details. They didn't have to. I knew enough to sleep for an hour when I finally lay down, not because everything was fine, but because the pieces were in motion under control again. In the morning, at the depot, Keller cleaned his cab like he always did. I logged my report. Erica washed her hands and counted the keys without looking. Nico and Sophia returned spare blankets to the stores. Luca made espresso on a hot plate and didn't say anything sentimental. Dario disappeared into a car with a man who wore a coat that didn't pick up lint. Helene called a week later. She said her device should never have been on board without my knowledge, that she had filed her report, and that she was sorry for the jams and the ghost in our wires. I told her the apology was noted. I told her next time to put the box in the center of her table and let me explain it to people in plain words. She laughed once, the dry kind that means she had a long week. Then she thanked me for choosing the slope I chose. And that is how it was on the night our luxury winter train became a chain of decisions and a mountain of concrete. We moved, we isolated, we used a maintenance gallery like a city street, and we left one car to be brought out by people in suits that reflect light. We did not let panic do the choosing. We did the choosing, with keys and levers and lines on a display in a world that had suddenly decided to make us earn our wages. If you ever ride through the Alps and feel the train settle as it enters the long straight under the mountain, know that there are doors every few hundred meters, and people who know how to use them. Know that there are phones that ring and hands that carry blankets in the dark. Know that a conductor somewhere is walking with a ring of keys at his belt and a notebook in his pocket, counting breaths and checking latches, because sometimes that is the only thing between locked and open. And if you ever find yourself holding a cup of tea in a dining car when the lights dim for a second, look for the person who keeps moving without raising his voice. He's trying to make sure the train arrives with more people standing than the night thought possible. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.